Welcome back to the No More Trauma podcast. My name is Tanya, certified yoga teacher, clinical yoga therapist, student, and teacher and wellness facilitator. My mission is to provide healing, mental health tips, and inspiration for living a trauma-free lifestyle. You can find this podcast on Apple, SoundCloud, and YouTube. The purpose of the yoga therapy series is gathering medical diagnoses and challenges and applying a yogic perspective, wellness options, and inspiration for achieving a goal of healing and vitality. The information I offer on this podcast is based on my life as a student and teaching experience as a certified coach, yoga, and wellness professional. This does not substitute or replace any medical or holistic services you may or may not already be receiving. So let's get started. So today's episode series session, we are looking at, we're working with a client diagnosed with spinal stenosis. Okay. So 62-year-old female. Okay. And spinal stenosis is showing up in the cervical spine, and she's seeking yoga therapy to eliminate any discomfort and pain. Okay. She's already in yoga training, and she practices a gentle form of yoga. So maybe yin or restorative. Okay. This client is expressing that her current diet consists of mindless eating and weight gain. And this can really impact the spine. So we want to be mindful of that. Okay. She was diagnosed with this spinal stenosis in her cervical spine after a car accident. Okay. And so I when I work, meet with the client and assess a couple of things that I'm looking at. And so she's, we know that, she's experienced a traumatic car accident. And so her dosha quality, right? So she's showing up pitta dosha, pitta quality dosha, due to her personal athletic history. Okay. So maybe, just fully energized, ready to, get started with her day. Um, may run a little, hot or temperamental, or may just have, strong digestive fire. Okay, just a couple things within that pitta dosha, some qualities that she may have. However, due to her poor eating habits, the client is presenting with an imbalance of the kapha quality. Okay, so just maybe feeling, maybe a little heavy or, not so much energized at all due to any excess weight that she may be carrying. So she's practicing, like I stated, a gentle asana movements. And so, or yoga practice. And so her goal is to really, the reason why she's coming to yoga therapy is she wants to obtain better mobility and flexibility, and she wants to reduce some of that pain and inflammation, right? And, also consider, reducing or losing weight. Okay. So again, as I'm, assessing and kind of working with this client, I want to, look at a few things. And, we know that the client's goal is she wants to, she wants to have this long-term weight loss, and she wants to increase some of that flexibility and mobility and reduce some of that pain. So let's look at the challenges or maybe the kleshas that's showing up. Um, Kleshas are like maybe the sufferings or, judgments that this client may be presenting with. And so the first thing is, if we're looking at the goal, well, this client has, mindless eating. Okay. So just, not being intentional. let's put it that way, not being intentional with their eating, maybe not having a particular schedule when eating, right? Maybe missing a meal. And so those, and if we're missing a meal, then maybe when we finally do have an opportunity to eat, we may, kind of choose an excess of food, right? And then depending on that time of day, maybe we're just kind of laying down on the food, just kind of, we want to look at how we can make some gentle changes there. Maybe even referring the client, with working with an Ayurvedic nutritionist. So, but in all, if we're mindless eating habits, and if we're having an excess and very little movement, then we're working against our Sankalpa. Okay. um and so the client is a former rower and cross country runner, which is a plus because maybe we can get back to that mindset, right? Who she also experienced this car accident, a few years ago. So since that car accident, the client has been diagnosed with this uh, uh, spinal stenosis. And so we're going to see how we can add just, a little bit more rajas, more passion, more energy into her lifestyle. Okay. And so by doing that, again, looking at how this client is presenting, I want to suggest that she starts her day at sunrise. One of the reasons because with the Pitta dosha, maybe starting the day a bit early to warm up the body, right? To warm up the body, because when we get it to warm, then maybe we can reduce some of that weight gain and develop a morning routine. And by doing that, right, that one practice can create a domino effect into the next practice, which is maybe becoming mindful on the food choices that we're making later in the day or throughout the day. Okay. I would also suggest a cold face and eye rinse, right? Um, this can just kind of just wake up the body. And that eye rinse can remove any. So in yoga, it's kind of like removing the rose-colored glasses or removing the residue, as I like to call it, or any impurities, right? Any impurities in the eyes. Um, Again, making better choices, I like to say. Massaging before bed, right? To reduce any of that inflammation. So maybe an Abhyanga practice. So reaching for oils, soothing oils or lotion bars to massage the body, reduce any tension in the muscles or discomfort, and to, again, soothe any excess inflammation. And working with this client, anywhere between 6 to 8 weeks. Okay. Another focus as we talk about movements and breath, focusing for about 30 minutes of mindful walking, right? So kind of going back when we were saying starting the day at sunrise, maybe it can be mindful walking or uh, Kalabati pranayama, one of my absolute favorites. I think it's, very supportive for this client, um, because it's also going to stimulate the breath, okay? Maybe, walking at maybe a little bit at an elevated pace. Okay. Um, and pelvic exercises to strengthen and balance the posture. So maybe adding in a yoga block, maybe stepping on that yoga block and stepping down. So stepping with the right foot, stepping down. Pelvic floor exercises also can include like placing the yoga block, say maybe the center of the inner calf muscles above the ankles and just raising onto the toes, lifting the heels with every inhalation, exhale down. And then I also support and stimulate that pelvic floor. And substituting those gentle days for these strengthening practices. Other props can also include outside of the yoga block, but also a yoga strap, okay? A wall and chair to support that mobility and strength, okay? So, for example, if we're working through, say, you know, more balancing postures with, maybe placing the hands on the back of the chair and lifting the heels again, working that pelvic floor, or maybe with the palm or palm onto the chair, the back of the chair, and maybe extending the legs outward, working on the abductors, so the hip abductors. A couple things to help with that mobility and flexibility. And then we look at, again, going back to the kleshas, journal reflection, advising the student to study these kleshas, these attachments or judgments, possibly that they had from their body. So the reason why I bring this up is because the name of this podcast is No More Trauma, and trauma happens in all different forms. And so uh, a car accident can definitely be one. It's very traumatic. Now you're presented with a diagnosis when you were, in fact, you used to be a rower, and this, could have been your peace of mind, your passion, everything. And so you're seeing the body differently. You may be having some attachments or judgments of the body, and just causing, more dukkha, more suffering. And which, when that happens, again, presenting tamasic, presenting heavy, mindless eating creates a full domino effect. And so this will be a really good opportunity for the client to go within and see what are those narratives that can be impacting decisions throughout the day. And so the I want to kind of go back a bit and talk about that asana practice again. So the client can finish about 2 to 3 rounds of working with the chair or those strength balancing postures. Now I did include Warrior Three, okay, in this. And the thing about that, because with spinal stenosis, the feedback I was provided, spinal stenosis as I was working this case study is, you know, spinal stenosis can, anyone that's working, in the cervical spine can get really dizzy. And so when I included Warrior Three, the feedback I got back was, using a wall or a chair. Okay. And so maybe when the client is, say, standing and grounded within that right leg, the right palm is on the chair, but as they lift that left sole back behind them and send the chest forward, they want to have a wall or a chair to ensure that, no injury or additional discomfort. So flexibility and mobility, also working with seated cat cows, cactus arms, okay, um, shoulder circles, and seated standing twists, seated or standing twists, okay. And wall assisted cat cows can be supportive, and using those props that I mentioned before, the blocks, the chair, the wall. This is going to help the client with better posture and then also stimulate that weight reduction and reduce inflammation. Now, in terms of referring the client or making any additional suggestions outside of what we're working with, so I'm looking for the improvement, how the client, I'm going to be asking the client throughout those sessions, how are they feeling in terms of in their body? Do they feel like they're making some improvement with their posture, right? Are they feeling less inflammation, right? Are they doing those maybe homework practices of Abhyanga, the self massage? Are they making better choices with their food? Has anything, um, improved? Are they starting to see a schedule right now since they're waking up in the morning? How has the walking meditation, that Kalabati pranayama, how has that been supportive? Okay. And so as I begin to refer this client to maybe an Ayurvedic nutritionist, just to introduce any additional herbs or foods that can be helpful on their journey, and to just educate the client on some kapha rituals to help balance their diet and their lifestyle altogether. Okay. So I would hope that this client feels very much balanced, very much in tune with their body and their practices. And, they start to see some changes in their body, in their weight, right? In their mood, right? And so that would say that this was a well-rounded um, sessions with the client. And so I really like this type of work, adding in different props. And of course, working with the spine, because I like to say the spine is the foundation. Always, always, always. Okay. Well, that is it for this yoga therapy session. I really hope you'd enjoyed it. If you have questions, feel free to introduce those questions down in the comments, or you can email me at az.nomoretrauma@gmail.com. You can visit my website at nomoretraumayoga.com. And if you think yoga therapy is for you, or you would like to schedule a consultation and complete your intake form, then you can find that link below. I look forward to hearing from you, and feel free to share this with anyone who could benefit. All right. Well, live abundantly, love your authenticity, and radiate organic happiness. But most importantly, live a life of no more trauma. Be well.